My name is Sue Smerick, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the Ann Arbor area. I welcome you to our Zoom forum featuring candidates for Michigan House of Representatives, District 55. The candidates will be on the general election ballot on November 3rd. This year, the League of Women Voters is celebrating 100 years of expanding voter rights, educating voters, and shaping and influencing legislation at the local, state, and national levels. We are pleased to sponsor these forums. The League is a nonpartisan civic organization that encourages active participation in government. While the League does not support candidates or parties, we do take stands on issues we have studied. One of the League's most important goals is to assist voters in making informed choices at the polls, and thus we bring you tonight's program. Our moderator this evening is Jeff Smerick, who will explain the format and get us started. Jeff.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. And now it's my honor to introduce the two candidates running for the Michigan House of Representatives, District 55, Ms. Felicia Brabeck and Mr. Bob Baird. Welcome, candidates, and thank you so much for participating in this forum. The forum today will have this format. Each candidate will have an opening statement of up to 1 minute. Each candidate will have a closing statement of up to 90 seconds. In between, I will ask questions which came from the Washtenaw County community. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to a question. At appropriate times, a sign on the screen will indicate the time remaining, 30 seconds, and then stop. If you have used up your time, you will be allowed to finish your sentence, and then your microphone will be muted so the other candidate has an equal opportunity to participate. The candidates this evening will begin speaking in alphabetical order. Depending on the number of questions, all candidates will have an equal opportunity to be the first or last to answer the questions. And now to the opening statements. Mr. Baird, may we have your opening statement, sir? And you need to unmute. You need to unmute your, unmute. You got it in the lower left corner probably, or you need to unmute that one. Okay, good.
Now,
Thank you, Mr. Baird. Your opening statement, sir.
my finding you unmute is an indication of me going forward. That's not a good sign. But I'm originally from Ohio. It sounds like a bad joke because I don't tell too many people. But after World War II, my family moved to California. And then in 1953, my dad was out of work. And my grandfather was here at the university, so we came to Ann Arbor, which was a tough move, junior in high school. Fortunately, I played trombone in the band, and that got me involved. Right out of high school in '55, I went into the Navy and boot camp, San Diego, and then I was stationed in Japan for 2.5 years, where it was like a paid vacation. They did all the grunt work, and we just did our job and went into town with the guys. I'm running for office because Ann Arbor is a tough town for Republicans to win. Felicia understands that, I'm sure.
Well, thank you, Mr. Baird. I'm sure we'll hear more about that as the questions proceed.
Okay.
And now, thank you for that. Your time has expired for the opening statement. And now, Ms. Brabeck, may we have your opening statement, ma'am?
Thank you, Jeff. My name is Felicia Brabeck, and I am running to be the next state representative in our district, the 55th district here in Michigan. Have a goal of making Washtenaw County and southeastern Michigan a place that everyone can be proud to call home. Currently, I'm the longest serving member of the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners, and I got to start serving the residents here in our county in 2011. I'm also a clinical psychologist. I have a degree in social work as well. And if elected, I'd be the only mental health care practitioner out of the 110 state representatives. And I feel like it's that combination of local government experience and social work and mental health expertise that makes me bring a unique perspective. Dave and I, my husband and I, have chosen to build our family here, and our kids go to the amazing public schools, and we even coach our kids in sports. And I also get to be part of 2 amazing local nonprofits, Garrett Space and Food Gatherers. Serving the residents is the thing that I really want to do the most as your next state representative.
Thank you, Ms. Brayback, and thank you, Mr. Baird. And now to the questions. As a reminder, I will be reading each question once, and it will not be repeated unless requested. The first question starts with Ms. Brayback. Through today, more than 128,000 Michiganders have been infected with the COVID-19 virus, and approximately 7,000 Michigan citizens have died from COVID. What does Michigan need to do going forward to control the COVID pandemic?
Thanks, Jeff. That's a great question. So first, it starts at the baseline that access to healthcare is a right. All of our residents should be able to get the care that they need without worrying about going bankrupt and their families going bankrupt. Folks shouldn't have to decide between food and healthcare. So that's at the baseline. We need to really pay attention to what the virus has highlighted, which is the greater inequities in our Black and Brown communities. And we already knew that this was something that we needed to look at and was already happening in our communities. But the virus has just highlighted that. And so one of the things that we need to make sure that we're doing, particularly with our current healthcare system, is making sure that we're putting people's health before the profits of the companies so that folks can, again, get the care that they need. We also need to be able to protect our workers and union rights, so that if folks have to take time off, they shouldn't be punished for that. And so we need to make sure that we're taking care of folks overall. We need to make sure that people have the PPE that they need. We need to make sure that essential workers have the support that they need as well. The bottom line, in terms of COVID and what we need to continue to do is, again, get folks the care that they need and access to that care. And we also need to make sure that companies, particularly insurance companies, are providing the care that they need and holding them accountable to be able to provide that care for our residents.
Thank you, Ms. Brayback. And Mr. Baird, the same question to you, sir. And you need to unmute again.
I'll get it down. Yeah, healthcare is an interesting situation. I'm not in favor of the government providing our healthcare. I would rather see the competitive competition between different healthcare companies bidding on it. And I realize that that sometimes can be a problem if people can't afford it and have to purchase it. I'm fortunate. I work for Detroit Edison, and in our retirement plan, we don't have a health care anymore, but they give us an allowance. So in my case, I have to choose the insurance company and use up that allowance. When that's out, I pay for everything on it. And so, like I said, I do basically like a competition. I don't care to have things provided by the government. I would like to minimize government spending as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Baird, you get the first bite of the next apple, the next question. The League of Women Voters has consistently advocated for access to voting. There is opposition these days to absentee or mail-in voting, as well as concerns with the ability of the United States Postal Service to deliver ballots on time. The president even recently told people to try to vote twice, which of course is a felony.
Yeah.
What challenges do you see for safe access to voting in Michigan?
Well, in Michigan, we do not have, like they're doing in some other states, where ballots are just sent out to everybody. We have to request our absentee ballot, and my wife and I do that on a regular basis. So we fill it out, and then we drop it off at the township hall. I live in Ann Arbor Township, and that works perfectly in our state. There is some concern about other states where they're just sending them out to everybody, and I could see where there could be fraud and something like that, and a real problem trying to straighten it out after the voting? Is the voting that we're going to have in November? Are we going to know shortly after that first date, or is it going to go on for several days, finding the results of that? So basically, like I said, I don't like the government paying for healthcare. Oh, we're back in the ballots. I'm sorry. I know our township, where I get mine, they said they're not doing that, sending out ballots all over the place. That theirs is controlled.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And Ms. Brabeck, the same question to you, ma'am.
So voting access is something that obviously the league has worked on. Jeff, you even just acknowledged that for a long time. And it's something that I think we need to be very aware of, and something that we're paying attention to at the very least. And so in terms of our absentee ballots, we need to request them. And I know that those ballots, from speaking with some of the clerks, are going to be going out in the next couple of days to folks in our areas. And so people should be on the lookout for those ballots. You can return your ballot either by dropping it off at your city or township clerk. You can also put it in the mail. One of the things that's of concern right now is that the mail is, folks are worried about the reliability of the mail. And I just actually read an article today that said that it may take up to 2 weeks to even get, if you mail your ballot. And so I think one of the concerns that we need to be worried about is making sure that folks' ballots actually get to the clerks to be able to be counted. Now, there have been several lawsuits around ballots as well, and the ability to count ballots. You know, the League of Women Voters, you know, they sued the Secretary of State back in May to asking local clerks to be able to accept mail-in ballots that are postmarked on election day. And then the Court of Appeals ruled that ballots have to be in by 8 p.m. that day. And then the League again asked back in August, so just a month ago, for that to be reconsidered. So I think that is, again, very important that we have people advocating. There are several House and Senate bills right now around trying to protect voter access at various states. Some are in committee. And so I think that it's very important for us to be able to understand what's happening as well in terms of legislation. The bottom line is we need to make sure that our ballots and votes are counted. That's what we need in our democracy.
Thank you, Ms. Brabeck. And you get the first bite of the next apple. The next question. Thousands of Michiganders have lost access to health care as they have lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. What can the state of Michigan do to address access to health care at this precarious time? What needs to be done to update or renovate Michigan's public health system for mm-hmm. crises such as the one we're now experiencing?
Yeah. So access to healthcare, I mean, that's one of the things that we started off talking about. I believe that access to healthcare is a right, and again, should not be the thing that families lose their homes and livelihoods over. And so one of the things that we need to do, I mean, let me back up. I feel like voting for Medicaid expansion was very important. Hundreds of thousands of Michiganders were able to gain access to healthcare because of that. And we need to continue to do work in that area. We need to make sure that our bigger insurance companies that provide insurance are continuing to do that at a reasonable rate for folks. That's the other issue, is that folks can have healthcare, but then they can't pay their deductible or their copays. And so those rates can be skyrocketing. I actually tell a story that our son had to have physical therapy, and I was looking at his bill, and for a bag of ice, the line item was $64. And so we need to address that. We need to address those things so that folks can have access to the insurance that they have. And then if folks are underinsured or uninsured, there needs to be a system that's robust enough to be able to care for them as well. And so we need to work, particularly with MDHHS, to be able to provide that. And I know that they are working on being able to again, buttress that system so that Michiganders can have the health care that they need.
Thank you, ma'am. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Baird, the same question to you, sir, and you need to unmute. Unmute.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. Healthcare is an interesting situation, and especially when you get to be a senior and you see the Medicare bills and things of that sort coming through. And what's kind of, I don't like it, but what I generally see is that doctors and providers are invoicing the government on a very heavy rate. And I think they're doing it knowing that that the Medicare comes through and automatically discounts a lot of that. And so wouldn't it be nice if they could invoice at a rate that would be kind of fair in that whole situation? And you know, I can, for example, it sounds crazy, but I have a toe problem and I have to go to the podiatrist. And sometimes I see the podiatrist automatically give me a trim, knowing that that's something he can bill and make money on, even though I may or may not need that situation. So I think in general, I would like to see more done with how the invoicing is done. And much of it, I believe, is government bureaucracy and things that need to be changed and fixed in that situation. And obviously, you have people in this situation that cannot afford a whole lot. And there again, I think if they're in need, I think it's fair game for the state of Michigan to offer some assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beard. And Mr. Beard, you have the next question. This week, our state Senate passed Senate Bill 757, which will allow local clerks to start processing, although not counting, absentee ballots early. Our clerks have been stressing the need to be able to prepare for the record 2.1 million requested absentee ballots early so they can deliver accurate and timely election results. How would you vote on this Bill 757 to help clerks start processing absentee ballots early?
Well, in all fairness, I'd have to know more of the details on that one. But in general, I think I don't like the idea of them counting the ballots early. And you could say, well, we'll have confidential information. We'll not tell about it. You can't always count on that.
Well, this 757 bill doesn't allow them to count them, but it does allow them to process it early. So it's a processing question.
I wonder what they would do in the processing.
We'll remove it from the ballot, the envelopes and so forth. There are two envelopes inside each other. And
Yeah.
Would you support that bill?
It sounds like maybe I could. And like I said, in all fairness, I'd probably have to see the bill and know as much about it as I can.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Brayback, same question to you.
Yes, I would support Senate Bill 757. I think, again, as someone who believes in and is a supporter of, democracy, small d, I think we need to do everything that we can to encourage folks to vote. And the other thing that I think that I've become aware of, again, from talking to some of our local clerks, is just the enormous amount of work that goes into not only making sure that folks have their ballots, but then once they receive ballots, to processing them and then counting them. And that is very time consuming. And with the historical number of ballots going out, I think that our clerks are human. They can only do so much in so much time. And so if we can provide the ability for them to start to process those early, and there are measures in place to be able to protect the sanctity of that voting process as well. And so I would be in favor, of House Bill 757 or Senate Bill, and we also know that there's House Bill 5987, which also talks about allowing ballots to be counted if they're postmarked by the election day, and then House Bill 5991 that asks if a signature doesn't match, that the clerk can then follow up to the voter with a phone call. And so I would be in support of all of those measures, which allows and encourages folks to participate in our democracy.
Thank you, Ms. Brayback. And you have the next question. In August, Michigan's unemployment rate was 8.7%. Despite some recent rebound, Michiganders are heavily burdened still by unemployment with the inability to pay for housing and other necessities of life. Under these circumstances, what can the state of Michigan and local governments do to support Michiganders who are unemployed and small businesses that are in trouble?
Yeah, so even though the unemployment rate has gotten so much better, I mean, just a couple of months ago, we were at 22.7%. And so we're in a much better place, but we also know that in July, that stat is from, that 12 to 14% of our population was also receiving unemployment benefits. And so one of the things that I think we need to make sure of first is that folks can actually access their unemployment benefits. I've had the opportunity to talk with folks and help them get hooked up with our state reps who have been helping, our current state reps who have been helping folks get access to their unemployment benefits, because the system can be cumbersome and folks can have issues just accessing the unemployment benefits that they should have access to. So number one, I think we can do a better job about that system in and of itself. Number two, I think we just need to take a look at where and who and what companies are getting bigger tax breaks. And so being aware of where that is happening, and it's usually not, often not the small businesses, it's larger corporations. And we need to be focusing on our smaller businesses and being able to support them and their sustainability. I've heard some terrible stats around small businesses here in our county in terms of the number of them that won't be able to open up after the pandemic. And, if we can do, small business loans, I know we've did a program right here in our county, trying to get small business loans to those businesses so that they can continue to operate, have their livelihood and be able to be part of our community. So I think that if we can start to do something like that statewide, and I actually know Jackson County also did something similar as Washtenaw did. So if we can help grow that small business loan program, I think that could help as well.
Thank you, Ms. Brayback. Now, Mr. Baird, the same question goes to you, but I think you're unmuted, but we're not seeing your picture. Can you push your picture back on somehow? Can we? There you go. Very good, Bob. So, Bob, the same question to you. It relates to the unemployment in Michigan and what we can do to try to help the unemployed.
Yeah, I believe that a lot of this has been caused by the virus issue. And some of the restrictions that come down from the governor in terms of, I feel like I'm confined to my home, and to be able to go out, and the businesses have these same problems. They need to run the business. They need the customer to come into them. And do you try to get into some of these businesses nowadays? You've got to put a mask on, and people got to stand at the door, and one thing after another. And it just means to be such a pain. My wife and I tried to go out to have dinner the other night. Our refrigerator had been out for a week, believe it or not. And when the guy finally got the part installed, it was a big job. He didn't finish up until 8 o'clock at night. We went around trying to find a place we could get a bite to eat. And it was next to impossible. And we finally did get one at a Mexican restaurant. But so anyway, I kind of feel as though the virus has been much of the cause and some of the regulations that have been handed down by the governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baird. Now, the next question will be the last one, candidates. And the first question of this goes to you, Mr. Baird. School is now beginning for K through 12 and post-secondary schooling, but there is ongoing risk of infection from the deadly COVID virus. How should Michigan protect students and teachers and other staff from this epidemic and continue to provide for quality education for Michigan's students?
Well, I believe a lot of that is being worked on. They're offering more visual classes, but for me, I'm basically a people-to-people person, and I like the meeting in a classroom, meeting and dialoguing with the students in there. And that's basically, I would prefer that route. Now, having said that, the virus is pretty serious. in terms of the number of deaths that are being caused and things of that sort. And so there again, is there something we can do to help with the medication for that, which is supposedly being developed, and things that will just handle that situation a lot easier? Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Brayback, same question to you, ma'am.
Thank you. So at a baseline, I think that we need to pay attention to what our public health experts are telling us. We need to listen to them and what they have outlined. I mean, this is what their expertise is, and they can help us lead the way. I believe that one of the biggest edicts has been wearing a mask, and particularly wearing a mask indoors. And so that protocol needs to be followed. In terms of schools, our kids attend Ann Arbor Public Schools, and there have been so many things that the school systems have been doing, whether it's getting technology to all students, if the district is able to do that, and many districts around here have been able to, so that every student has the technology that he or she needs to be able to participate in their schooling. There's also school supplies that have been offered, as well as other needs that students and families have, whether that's food distribution, which has also been of huge help to many of our residents. And so the schools are really serving as the hub, particularly during the pandemic, for students to remain and their families to remain healthy, but have access to the education. One of the things that that has been happening, obviously, is the virtual learning. And again, here in Ann Arbor, students had 3 different options that they could choose from, depending on folks and families' comfort levels in engaging with the school system. And so our experience has been great. The teachers have been phenomenal. The hours and hours and hours that they are spending to be able to continue to educate our children under these circumstances has been tremendous. And they have my gratitude. And so again, listening to public health, keeping our teachers, students, and staff safe, and going back when it is okay and the public health officials say that it is safe to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Brayback, and thank you, candidates, for your answers of these questions. And now it's time for the closing statements. We'll begin with Ms. Brayback. Ms. Brayback, may we have your opening statement? Your closing statement.
Absolutely. Or we could just start all over. So Jeff, I want to thank you and Sue and Andrea. Thanks for being our timekeeper. And thanks to League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. Again, we talked about this, but voter access and education is so important, and you all are right on the front lines of that. So thank you. Bob, it has been so nice to see you and share this time with you virtually. This has been great. As a county commissioner here in Washtenaw County, I've had the opportunity to work on several different issues, whether that's mental health care access, or infrastructure, or environmental issues, or managing a budget. But the issue that I'm most proud of is the work spearheading our racial equity policy, which really set up the infrastructure at the county to look at the inequities that have occurred because of racism in our governmental entity. But we also are doing that work across the county. So that work is the most important that I've gotten to do to date. Why I'm running, 2 major reasons. One, we need more mental health care practitioners in the state house. I would be the only one out of the 110. And so we need that perspective there. Secondly, I'd like to be able to continue that racial equity work. I've been working with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights on their statewide council, and like to be able to bring that work to a larger group of folks. So I want to be your state rep with all the different hats that I get to wear as a mom and a psychologist and a community member and a policymaker and a small business owner. I'd like to be able to bring that to bear on policymaking as your next state rep. So please check out our website, FeliciaBrayback.com, and I ask for your vote in the November 3rd election.
Thank you, Ms. Brayback. And Mr. Baird, we're ready for your closing statement, sir. And you need to unmute.
Yes. I'm going to read to you my favorite poem that I've had for years. And any of you that know me, when you hear the poem, you'll say that is me. It's called The Bridge Builder, written by Will Allen Dromgool. An old man going a lone highway came at evening cold and gray to a chasm vast and deep and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in a twilight dim. That swollen stream had no fears for him. But he turned when I reached the other side and built a bridge to span the eventide. Old man, said a fellow pilgrim near, you are wasting strength in building here. Your journey will end with any day. You never again must pass this way. You have crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build you the bridge at eventide? The builder lifted his whole great head. Good friend, in the path I have come. He said, there followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm has been not to me, to that fair-haired youth may be a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I'm building the bridge for him. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Brebeck. Thank you, Ms. Baird, Ms. Brebeck, Mr. Baird. Thanks to all of you for participating in this valuable session. I'll now turn this back over to Sue for our closing comments.
I want to get the voting picture in here. The League thanks the candidates for participating in tonight's forum and those who contributed questions. All our candidate forums will be available for you to stream on your computer or smartphone. Go to our website, lwvannarbor.org, and look for the link to the programs. In addition, the forums can be viewed on the Community Television Network, CTN. Please encourage your friends and neighbors to watch these forums as well. For additional nonpartisan information on candidates and ballot issues, go to vote411.org. The League's voter resource guide covering local, state, and federal candidates and current proposals that will appear on your ballot. As a reminder, all registered voters may cast an absentee ballot this year. With the challenges that have been created by COVID and confusion regarding registration and voting procedures, the League encourages you to vote as soon as possible after you feel knowledgeable about the candidates and issues. The important thing is to make sure to vote in the November 3rd general election. Good night.